Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Nedling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Nedling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to become that confident leader and take your business and your life to the next level. Today, I am excited to talk with Amy Terry. And let me tell you about Amy. She began her career in real estate at just 16, rising up from answering the phones to a top producing agent, and now a partner and managing broker for one of the most successful real estate firms in Colorado. She has bought, sold, rented, flipped, developed, and held all kinds of properties, continuing to grow a portfolio of real estate, providing her financial freedom beyond her successful career. Amy is passionate about helping people build long-term wealth through real estate and leading her brokerage with authenticity and vulnerability. So we're going to talk about stepping into your power as a female leader. All you ladies out there who don't know what's next in your journey, maybe this is right for you. So please join me in welcoming my guest, Amy Terry. Amy, so happy. I think in all these almost 500 interviews I've done, you are the first female successful real estate person I've had on, and I'm so excited. That's why I wanted to get you on. It's like, ladies, it doesn't have to just be a man that's doing and making all these things happen. So
Yes.
so happy to have you on.
I love that. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
And I always start with a really easy question. We already gave it away, but what part of Colorado do you live in?
So I live in Littleton, Colorado, which is a southwest suburb of Denver.
Yes, very good. So those that know me know that I am a long-term Toastmaster, and Toastmasters moved from the corporate office in California, Anaheim area, to Denver. Aurora, I believe, is the area that Toastmasters headquarters is now. So
I did not know that.
Yeah, so been to Denver 2 times for Toastmasters, and I love the area. But I did bring a little humidifier with me in my hotel room.
It is we had like 30% humidity yesterday and everybody was dying.
I was like, whoa. But so it sits in my little closet, and I thought every trip that I go, I know I'm going to take that because I survived pretty nicely, I think. And also I took ginger quite a lot. Evidently that helps with motion sickness, but also air sickness or something.
Oh, the altitude?
High altitude sickness, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, good to know. I definitely thought of ginger for motion sickness, but not altitude. That's good to know.
Yeah, so there you go. All
Good.
right. We always talk about the journey, and you said you started at 16. I love that you really demonstrated that you went from the ground floor and to become this wonderful career that you've got today. And I think some people just want to jump to the boss, jump to the thing and forget about the value and the benefit of doing those basic, mundane, developmental things to really make you understand the business to the point that you can really be that expert. So talk to us about that journey that took you from a 16-year-old to where you are today.
Yeah. And I absolutely agree with what you said. I think a lot of people do want to jump to the leadership role, but there's so much value in each step. And then as a leader, being able to speak to those steps from experience and speak to those positions as experience. But yeah, in high school, my best friend's mom was a real estate agent, and she got us a job at the local office answering phones. It was when you still had to call to schedule showings, and people would fax things in. So we'd have to call agents and let them know they got a fax. And really no interest in real estate. It was just kind of a fun after school job. And then I left for college and got a job at a real estate office there, just because that's what my experience was. So worked at a real estate office while I was getting my undergrad. I was studying pre-law. And at one point, one of the agents at that office offered me more money to be his assistant. So then I moved away from the front desk and started helping manage his personal business, and then graduated, got accepted to law school, and just kind of panicked a little bit. I wasn't sure, if that's what I wanted to do. And I had interned with the Boulder DA, and it wasn't what I really thought it was going to
Yeah.
be. And so long story short, I really respected my boss and my parents, and had a conversation, and they all kind of suggested, why don't you do a year deferment on your law school, get your real estate license. He needed the help. And so I graduated in May, got my license in July, and it just took off and never really looked back. And every once in a while I still get an itch to go back to law school for real estate. Now I would do real estate law versus criminal, but the thing I love so much about real estate is there's so much to learn, and every day
Yeah.
is different, every year is different, and there's so many avenues that you can become proficient in. I think a lot of other careers I would have been bored by now, but yeah, so that's and then from there I got my real estate license, became a successful broker. That same original agent I worked for in college, he started his own company, which is 8Z Real Estate, that I work for now.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started that brokerage in 2009. And then 2010, he was like, I really think you should start your own office and you should be a managing broker. And kind of went into it kicking and screaming. But it turned out to be, it was one of those when I started, recruiting agents and getting those phone calls, and it's like, oh, I do know the answers to all of these questions. So I feel very fortunate that I had a mentor that saw
Yeah.
in me things that I didn't see. And then we've also, I became a partner in the overall brokerage. So I run my own office, but then I have ownership in the whole brokerage. So getting to be involved in all those owners' conversations and the direction of where we're going. And it's just been a really great ride. And then on the personal side, I've done a lot of investing and building and flipping and developing and short-term rentals and long-term rentals. And so I can kind of speak to all those things from experience as well. So not only each step of the real estate industry, but each step as a consumer and an
Mm-hmm.
owner in the real estate industry. So I feel really fortunate, and just really love what I do every day.
Yeah. A couple of things, I guess, to unpack there. And it's funny how a lot of our lives in a weird way kind of aligned. But I too have had, fortunately, mentors that have seen and believed in me way before I believed in myself. And so all you out there in the audience that think, no, I could never do this, there's they have this or that, it's like, no, just trust them. People generally are not there to make you fail. And if you do fail, it's really for a lesson. So I love that. But you just demonstrated so well that you don't know what you don't know, but you are learning things. I graduated from college at 47 or 45. I went to college and I was on the road all the time for work as a project lead. And after 4 years of doing this, getting through these colleges as I'm working, I thought, I'm done. I'm over this. I'm just going to do that thing that I can hardly even pronounce, matriculation. And it was amazing. I had enough to easily graduate from all the experiences and the training and the personal development that I had done all those years. So
Yeah.
you don't know what you don't know, but you oftentimes know more than you think you do.
And you do, especially in my industry, you learn so much more just from experience. There was a time when I wanted to get into development. I looked at a master's program locally in real estate development. I talked with a couple of developers, and every single one of them told me you would be better to spend that money on just doing your first project than going into a classroom for 2 years.
Mm.
So I think learning on the fly is really helpful. And I've also observed with other leaders around me, I kind of find the reluctant leaders tend to be the best ones. I think they're in it for the right reasons, and they're being asked into that position because someone's seen something in them, versus people who, and I don't want to discount either, because I think there's something to being hungry and being clear about what your intentions are and going for what you want. And that is, talking about being a female leader, that is something that I've just observed in general. Men are much more comfortable.
Oh
Obviously,
yeah.
there's one-offs, but men are much more comfortable coming forward. This is what I want. I want this position. This is my expectation, versus women tend to kind of sit back and wait to be asked. And I think I would like to see. So I think there's a balance there. I think there's a lot of value in waiting for someone to recognize your skill set, but I also think that there's value in feeling comfortable to say, this is what I want. And I've encouraged that with my own team members who want
Mm-hmm.
growth. Come to me if you're interested in coaching, or you're interested in building your own team, or you're interested in growing as a leader, let me know.
Yeah. I mean, that's specifically why I do what I do, because it's really that understanding that you do need to have that drive, but oftentimes it's the feminine and the masculine energy that make you great. And men just sometimes just go and do it and figure it out. But women need to just feel comfortable asking questions when you don't know, and
Mm-hmm.
not trying to hide that you don't know. And so often I think we do that, well, if I ask a question, they're gonna not think I'm right for this job, and I'm gonna be let go or pushed down or whatnot. But really, asking a lot of questions is a way to learn, but it's also just showing that you are open to different ways to do things, just.
Well, and I think I look at in the past, I think a big mistake I made out the gate is you come into a new role and you were put in that role because of you and your skill set, but then you try to mimic. I remember thinking, okay, I'm a manager now, so I got to start acting like a manager. And my mentors were all male, so I started doing things the way they did things, and I started acting the way I thought I should act. And it took me time, and I actually did a lot of feminine embodiment work to realize that there is a place for not only female leaders, but leaders in their feminine. And it's a very different feel. It looks very
Absolutely.
different than a male leader. And that's a gift. And
That's right.
and my dad's a huge mentor in my life, and he's a retired CEO, and I still go to him for advice, but he also just does things so different than I would. And it took a lot of time for me to find my own voice, to be like, I don't want to handle it that way. That's
Yeah.
not the way I want to operate. And we need both, right? We need the feminine and the masculine. We need the masculine to get stuff done,
Yeah.
but we need the feminine to sit back and create space and receive, and be vulnerable, and allow space for other people to be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping that we'll see more of that. And I've seen it in my own brokerage, more feminine leadership, and finding that balance for agents in the company, that they've got both
Yeah.
mentors and both support systems.
It's funny. I guess last year, this time, one of the workshops that I do, just a one day, was with a group of real estate agents, and just having them understand, you need to build that relationship and listen to your clients to be able to get them that perfect home, that perfect piece of real estate. So it is, to me, we have to be the catalyst for change. And we women leaders need to be able to show and to validate that it works. I used to have managers say, well, you run that team because they always do what you say. And I never do it in a way that's, I used to say, you know, I never have to bring out the hammer. I always know, I get to know them well enough to know what triggers them to want to do more and want to
Mhm.
work with you. And that's what you want. You want someone to not leave the company because of you. And most
Yeah.
people do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say my intuition is a huge gift in coaching and mentoring as well as working with clients. You know, it's funny how you know, people that are in the real estate industry probably have a hot warm list. I've got my list of, you know, clients that are ready to go and ready to make moves, and then I have my warm list, and my warm list is almost all intuition of people that I think are going to be ready to move in the next
Right.
year or so. And it's just amazing to watch those. And whether it's chicken or the egg, you know, is it me setting the intention that those people are going to move, or is it my intuition? But, you know, instead of casting a huge net with my time, I'm really strategic about intuitively, like, who do I need to be in touch with? Who do I think is in a place that they're going to make a move? And that served me really well. And to your point with my agents, you know, finding intuitively what motivates them, what drives them, what they get excited about, and what, you know, for some people, competition is great. For some
Yes.
people, it totally shuts them down.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, you know, finding that and taking time and breeding a culture of, uh, I mean, that's what's very cool about real estate is like, there's so many ways to be successful in real estate. And I see it on my own team, and we have such a diverse, you know, personalities and backgrounds and the way they run their businesses, but yet they're all successful in their own ways, and they're all attracting their own type of
Yeah.
clients.
Yeah.
But I think that's a very feminine way of building a business as well, as attracting clients and using your intuition and it resonates with some people and it doesn't with others. And that's what's cool too, is that we need both, and we need both types of leadership.
Yeah.
And that's where, honestly, you know, when you said I'm your first, the whole reason I started podcasting, I have a really good friend who's a social media consultant, and she said, I don't know any female investors.
No.
She's like, I would love to learn from you how to invest as a single female. You've built this, you know, empire of real estate, and I would feel so much more comfortable learning from you. And that's really what motivated me. I was like, okay, well, let's make it more attainable or more relatable for women that are interested in investing or building a real estate career. So that was what, you know, that's what's been cool too, is it just kind of starts to snowball. But that's the whole reason I started podcasting, is she said, you never hear females talking about investing in real estate. And I think we need to change that.
Yeah. I interviewed a child, I guess. He's at that time he was 16, but he had been doing real estate investments since he was 9.
Oh my gosh.
His dad was big into it, and you know, he just followed that example. But he's, you know, got a huge portfolio, and the whole reason I had him on, besides the other side of my business, is to help youth have confidence and be able to be great in their public speaking. But I wanted to show people that it's attainable. You know, I think a lot of times people think, oh, well, I have to be a certain kind of person to do this real estate. It's hard. There's got to take tests. And I thought, well, you know, here's this kid that showed he has all these rental properties. He doesn't go and fix things, and he has a team that does that, and it's all possible. So I want all you female folks out there that think, I don't know how to fix anything, I could never flip. You need to talk to Amy.
Yeah. Well, and I stole this from someone else, but I always say real estate is not a get rich quick, but it's a get rich for sure. So if you have a strategy and you're realistic about it, and I have one of my favorite stories is a client I met, 14 years ago, helped single mom, bank teller, helped her buy a townhome. And she had expressed, she said, I want to be you. So we kind of stayed in touch. And a few years later, she's like, I think I'm ready to make a move. So another townhome in her same community came up. And so we talked about it. I said, well, do you want to actually move? And she said, yeah, I'd be willing to move. So low down payment, 1 year, 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 bought the other townhome, moved a couple doors down, so that she has an owner occupant interest rate on both properties, rented out her original property, was cash flowing there. Then a couple years later, she called me, she said, I'm ready to do it again. Didn't want to move that time, but she had saved 20% down, so was able to buy a third townhome in the same complex. And then her daughter's going to CSU in Fort Collins, just graduated, and she was 4 or 5 when we first met her. So anyway, she said, well, I want to buy something in Fort Collins for her to live in while she's a student. So just helped her buy a 4th place. And all of this was to pay for Sophia to go to college. She called me last week, it gives me goosebumps, but she got a full ride scholarship, housing, everything paid for. So she's raised all this money, and now her daughter's done so well in school. She's got a full ride scholarship, and now they've got these 4 properties.
That's right.
And we'll hopefully continue to build with that. But yeah, it was over 14 years. She bought 4 properties, which I think for some people it's not that exciting, because it takes, realistically, it takes some time. But she's going to be so well set up in 10 years when, rents keep going up, her payments are, she's almost paid them off. So anyway, she's one of my favorite stories, because we just slowly, methodically added to the portfolio, and especially now that she doesn't have to pay for college, it opens up all kinds of stuff for them.
Heck yeah. So we talk about all this positive, fun stuff, but it is a roller coaster ride. So what are some struggles that you face as a female leader?
Especially when I started, because I was so young, a lot of mansplaining, a lot of people assuming I was dumb, which I used to get really upset about. And then my dad said, honey, use it to your advantage. Don't let them see you coming. If they want to assume you're a dumb blonde, let them assume you're a dumb blonde. So I think once I kind of absorbed that and use it to my advantage, I think sometimes it can be disarming, especially in negotiations when people underestimate you. But yeah, I think a lot of underestimation. I think my own personal, a couple years ago, I got invited to speak for our brokerage at our conference, and I turned it down. I just didn't have, I was just very nervous, and I think part of it is just believing in myself. Again, I feel really fortunate that I have leadership that believes in me, but another female leader in the company pulled me aside, and she said, you know what, we've asked for more space. It's the men's job to create that space for us, but we better step into it. And so she said, she didn't say disappointed, but I could tell she was like, you had a great opportunity and you passed on it. And she said, the more opportunities you take, the more opportunities you open for the rest of us. And that was like a huge aha. Like, if our male leaders are going to make space for us, we better step into it and we better own it. So that's taken some time, but I spoke at our conference this year. I was shaking like crazy. But I got through it, and hopefully it'll get easier.
The more you do, the better it is.
Yes.
You will always be nervous. I will tell you this. You will always be nervous. But it's how do you use those nerves? Yes.
And it's so funny, because I taught an all-day class a couple weeks ago, the same amount of people, but because I wasn't up on a stage and I didn't have a big, it was all a psychological thing. I knew what I was talking about. So I think getting over those things and being ready to step into it, I think being underestimated. And I've also had subordinates, I guess, agents that I've hired that don't respect me as a leader or treat me differently because I'm a female. There's situations that come up that I think, gosh, if I was a man, would you have said that to me, or would you treat me that way?
Sadly, still true. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And it's, it's hard. It's kind of, once you become aware of it, you really notice it. Like I had a colleague years ago, he's no longer with the company, but we had another manager, and so it was a male manager, and then a female manager pointed out to me later, she goes, do you realize he just repeats everything you say in meetings in a different way?
Oh, I have heard that. Oh my goodness.
Yes. And I honestly had not picked up on it, but once she pointed it out, then I could not ignore it. And it was really irritating. It's like, is the way I said it not making sense to people? Like, it's one thing to ask clarifying questions. It's another to completely take that idea and try to present it as your own.
You should have said, thank you so much for repeating that for the audience. I'm sure they're happy to hear that.
Yes. Yeah, but I do think part of it too is I've learned to just, I think the awareness is good and I could definitely be better about addressing things, but I've also found that people who just aren't authentic and aren't confident and aren't coming to the table with their own stuff, they don't last.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I kind of also have decided to kind of stay in my own lane and worry about what I can control and trust that the rest will kind of work itself out. And I think that's a much calmer place to be, and it's a lot less emotional and frustrating to be. So unless something's really really dramatic, I just kind of brush it off. And I also realize with clients and as an agent or as a leader, 99% of the time people's reactions to you or the situation have nothing to do with you. It's what's going on for them or whatever you're triggering in them. And then with clients, it's, there's so much going on in people's personal lives that we don't know about. So yeah, I really, over the years, I've learned to just focus on what I can control, communicate what I think I need to communicate, and, let the rest fall where it may.
Awesome. So a couple of things that you said clearly indicated that you are an introvert. So how can you be I am one too, but how can you be successful in sales if you're an introvert?
So part of it was kind of going through each step. If I hadn't been forced to talk on the phone with all these clients, being an admin and being an assistant, I don't know that I would have been very confident having to call and talk with clients. And you do have to push yourself out of your comfort zone. But at the same time, I think, especially in sales, it's more about making genuine connections. It's about utilizing your intuition. It's utilizing systems. I think it's easier, right? Because being social and being in as many rooms and being in as many conversations is great for sales. But when you're an introvert, you just have to really focus on quality over quantity. So building connections and I do better, with a one-on-one coffee than having going to a big networking event. That's like, I try to get out of my comfort zone and do that. And sometimes I make a great connection. But I think it's focusing on building client relationships for life. And I think that's one thing I've done really well is I create strong relationships. So when I become someone's agent, I'm an agent for the whole family. I'm an agent for life. And I don't have to be real salesy. They just know that I've done a good job and that I'm putting their interests first. But yeah, there's definitely times you've got to get out of your comfort zone as an introvert if you want to be in sales. But it's finding what works for you. A lot of my business comes out of my CrossFit gym, and CrossFitting is something I would be doing every day anyway. But I've just built relationships there with them turn into business relationships. And I think also I don't know if you've ever read the book, The Go-Giver, but just be willing to help and provide value and trust that business will come from it. I don't think be attached to, I'm always willing to give advice or answer questions, whether I'm your agent or not. And I trust, sometimes I think I'm too nice about that when they've used another agent, they're calling me for everything. But I just trust that providing that value and support system will translate into business one day. So yeah, I would say as an introvert, it's just about genuine connections. Will supersede someone who's super outgoing any day, I think.
So if somebody was saying, okay, Amy, I think you've convinced me. I think I should start this. Where should they start? How should they get started?
So do you mean as investing in real estate or as a real estate agent?
Investing. Let's talk.
Okay.
Investing.
Yeah. Very first thing is owning your primary residence. If you're renting right now, I think buying your first property. Another interesting conversation I've had, and because the cost of living in Colorado has gotten so expensive, for a starter home, you're looking at 500,000 to 600,000. I have even had people, I'm like, if you don't own anything, even if you don't want to live in it, let's go buy a 1-bedroom condo that you can rent. You just kind of have to get your foot in the door to start building some equity. And then from there, we can build and snowball with that equity. So yeah, I would say if you don't own any property, buy a primary residence and get your foot in the door. If you own a primary residence and you're interested in investing, there's kind of 2 routes. The first one is my favorite, especially if you have like a 3% interest rate that you bought 4 or 5 years ago. Let's look at the numbers and turn your primary residence into a rental, and then get you moved into wherever you'd like to upgrade or downsize or change neighborhoods, whatever you're looking to do. Then you've got owner occupant interest rates on both properties. We can do a home equity line of credit to pull out the equity in the property you currently own without selling, then gives you the down payment. So I've done that with a lot of move up buyers right now that are like, we don't want to give up this interest rate. I'm like, you don't have to. Let's work with it and see how we can create some cash flow to offset the new mortgage payment. If none of that sounds appealing, then we can talk about, if you want to do short-term rentals, long-term rentals, and then down payments and set up savings and stuff like for that. And again, it's the way, anyway, I look at it. I think it's a slow, methodical building of a portfolio. And, when I do this with people, we talk about what's your end goal? How many properties do you want to own by what time? And then once we've kind of acquired that, then we start debt stacking. So we're, paying all your cash flow to one property to pay that off. And then it's a snowball effect. So it's really a long-term retirement plan is the way I look at it.
Yeah.
If people want to flip, that's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
But building I've done it all. And I think buying and holding is the best strategy. It's the most reliable strategy for sure. But yeah, so there's a lot of ways to go about it. So it's kind of sitting down and having that conversation of what does your whole financial picture look like? What are your goals? And then where do we go from there?
Sounds awesome. Time is running out. So what is the landscape though of, you mentioned, Denver being very expensive, almost like California, and Georgia here. My house I bought in 1970 or 86 at 90,000, and it's over 500,000 now. So,
yeah.
Starter homes are kind of crazy expensive, and so many people do want to get out of apartments. What is the outlook that you see for real estate in the US, for example?
I think we're gonna start seeing a lot more multi-generational households. I'm already seeing that in my own database where either, aging parents are moving in, or you have your grown children that are staying longer. We have a lot more ADUs available in Colorado, so detached dwelling unit where you can build like an apartment over in a garage, things like that. We're seeing that more frequently. And then for some of my younger clients, which it's stressful, but it's not a whole lot different than going into a lease with people. If you can qualify, but you're nervous about, that's how I bought my first condo. I bought and rented to a friend from college. And honestly, at the end of the day, she was paying more in rent than I was to own the place.
Yeah.
So that's, I'm talking to younger people. If you have a good job, but you're nervous about the payments, buy something knowing that you're going to have roommates move in. People are just having to get creative. We're seeing some predictions that prices are going to drop. I don't know how much we'll see that in Colorado. We still have really tight inventory. People have always wanted to live here, but then it really exploded during the pandemic when people could work from anywhere. We had so many people relocate here for the weather and the outdoor activities. So we're still really struggling for inventory. So I don't know if we'll see it here. I think we might see some prices drop nationwide. And then interest rates right now, I know they're waiting for unemployment to go up before we see a change, but I mean, interest rates are almost 7%, which So on a starter home, you're looking at like a $4,500 payment is just
Mhm.
bonkers. So I don't know what, like I said, I do think we're going to see a lot more multi-generational living. I feel for people getting out of college. I bought my first place at 22, but it was 120,000,
Mhm.
so it was doable.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not sure what we're going to see. We're seeing a lot of people, which is also keeping inventory here tight. A lot of people are just not moving
Yeah.
because, if they want to upgrade, they're almost tripling their payments
Mhm.
because of the interest rates. So we're just seeing a lot of people hold tight. I mean, most of my listings this year have been either inherited properties or divorces or job reloads where people like have to move. Where the
Mhm.
last few years, it was more people that wanted to move. Um, so I think if rates come down, we'll see the floodgates kind of open of buyers and sellers and a flurry of activity. But I don't know when that will happen.
Mhm. So one last question. What is your um, next step what's the next thing Amy's got on her outlook for doing?
Yeah, so real estate wise, I recently, well, gosh, it's been almost 3 years now. I bought 18 acres in a town called Sedalia, which is just south of where I am. It's a real small rural community. And it was a good real estate opportunity. I jumped on it. I've gone through getting water rights, and now I'm just kind of working with Douglas County to figure out what my options are with that property. So, I'm looking at a lot of things. I'm looking at doing a wedding venue. I'm looking at doing subdividing. I'm looking at doing storage units. I'm looking at, potentially doing residential housing. So that's been, a fun project, but also trying to figure out what makes the most sense in that area, what Douglas County will allow, what I want to do. And then personally, I am I've been single for a very long time, and now I'm in a very serious relationship. And so we were doing long distance. He just moved here. And so we're kind of trying to figure out what our vision is for our life
Yeah.
together going forward. And it's very exciting, but it's a whole new ballgame. I've always made all my decisions myself. So now he's kind of coming in on this property in Sedalia to help me with it and figure out what we want to do together, which is really fun to have a partner in all of this. And I will say too, since we're talking about, being a female leader, this is the first man I've ever been with that I didn't feel like I needed to shrink to
Yeah.
like make him feel comfortable. And that's where there was a lot of things that I felt like this is such a healthy, great relationship, but he's just so proud of me and he's not threatened by my success and what I'm doing. And I'm so grateful for that. And I think that that's going to help me even jump further in my goals. So yeah, so it's an exciting time right now and kind of
Yeah.
navigating a new chapter.
Well, I have been married 46 years. I married my best friend, and he has never kept me from doing anything that I said yes to. So you are right on.
It's
Good
so
for
important.
finding someone like that.
Yes, thank you.
But I think it's important that you as you grow older will continue to grow and pivot, and you want to have that support of the person that you love to do that. So all you ladies out there, don't be afraid of change. Change is inevitable, and you will be a stronger leader when you understand that you will have to change. You will have to go outside of that comfort zone and do
Yes.
that speaking engagement. You come see me if you are frightened, I'll help you.
I will. I will.
Awesome. It's been so wonderful chatting with you. I do want to have you come back again, especially, if you decide what you're going to do with that 18 acres. I'd love to hear all about that evolution. That might be a great little series to have of what you've done and how it goes through. I think that would be a great learning lesson for everybody as you go through the ups, the downs, and the fun things.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Awesome. Well, as always, thank you so much for being a guest. And as I remind everyone that life is a journey and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Nettling signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Nedling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.